The Athletic.
G'day there and welcome along to the Race F1 briefing for Thursday the 20th of June 2024, brought to you by the Singapore Grand Prix, the home of Formula One night racing. I'm James Baldwin and this is the podcast that brings you all of the big F1 headlines you need to know in 15 minutes or less. We're ready to go racing in Barcelona, so let's get into it. The pre-Spanish GP press conference featured both of the home heroes, Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz, with the latter providing an update on his future post-Ferrari. Sainz saying he's close to making up his mind about what has become a common theme of F1 Thursdays in 2024, but it appeared to step up a notch in Barcelona with the admission that the dilemma has become a drain. He promised that a decision will be taken very soon and said, "I don't want to wait any longer. I think it's getting to the point where it's taking space out of my head for quite a few weeks now and months. It's time to make a decision." Sainz insists he hasn't made up his mind despite reports to the contrary, and he needs a couple of days at home to decide where to go next year, seemingly choosing between the future Audi Works team Sauber and Williams. He'd spent time at home prior to the Spanish Grand Prix, but with the extra off-track commitments that a home race brings, Sainz hasn't had the time to make his choice. Much has been made of Sainz's choice prioritising who will be competitive in 2026 with such a major rules overhaul, but he highlighted 25 as an important factor too. Guessing now in 24 about who is going to be performing better in 26 is almost impossible, Sainz said. It's a bit of a lottery or a coin toss to see who is going to be quicker in 2026. 2025 becomes also important if I can't predict 26. It's also the long term, trying to understand the power unit side, the team dynamics. All of these factors came into play when taking a decision. That's why it's taking long and taking time for me to find some time within myself to take the decision. You could argue certain aspects of that, the 2025 element, the power unit side of the 2026, amid bullish claims of gains from Mercedes, play into Williams' favour. But when asked about closing the gap between customer and manufacturer teams, Sainz said, responding to that question, "Yes, it looks closer, but there are so many things involved in my decision. It's not only that." All those other things will play their role during a critical decision-making time for Sainz that he should finally conclude shortly. George Russell understandably came under plenty of scrutiny after a messy Canadian Grand Prix weekend that featured some of the highest highs and lowest lows of his Mercedes stint so far. But on Thursday in Barcelona, he offered an interesting take on why there's been a higher frequency of mistakes in 2023 and 2024. Think Russell crashing out at Singapore and Canada last year and his messy Montreal race this year versus his much cleaner rookie year with Mercedes in 2022. I was very upset with myself on Sunday night and Monday morning, but it was when I watched the race back that I reminded myself of how tricky it was out there, he said. I could have easily not made any of those mistakes if I turned down the risk dial and drove a tenth a lap slower for 70 laps. If I drove a tenth of a lap slower for 70 laps, I probably wouldn't have been in that position in the first place though. In 2022, I don't think I was pushing myself as much as I am now, and I didn't make any mistakes really throughout the course of the season. Now I'm really pushing myself because I really want to get that victory for the team. If I was fighting for a championship, I probably wouldn't be pushing that much or risking that much during the races. But right now, we're not fighting for a championship. We have half a chance of a victory, and I went above and beyond to achieve it, and probably too far. So essentially, there'll be no change of approach from Russell until he finds himself in a championship fight. He knows Mercedes isn't up there with Red Bull, Ferrari or McLaren on a normal weekend, so he believes he has to overreach when there's a sniff of beating them. If Mercedes Canada progress is confirmed in Barcelona, then the question becomes, does Russell's approach change if Mercedes is a regular contender to challenge Red Bull for race wins this year?
The Race F1 Briefing.
Esteban Ocon has the look and air of defiance about him right now. There's been so much chaos and noise swirling around him and Alpine since the Monaco collision. The agreement to part ways at the end of 2024 in the wake of that incident, and then the controversial call for the reversal of positions later on in Canada that led to a fresh public outburst from Ocon. There was a clear attempt to shut down all that noise immediately as the paddock reconvened in Barcelona, with Ocon telling gathered media, "I'm not going to comment on any of that," as reporters attempted to discuss the fallout from Canada with him. Pierre Gasly had twisted the knife slightly beforehand by suggesting Ocon could and should have made the original position switch sooner than he did, that taking 2 laps to obey the instruction allowed Daniel Ricciardo to escape up the road, and that Ocon had been less obtrusive, it would have been possible for Alpine to score those extra points the position swap was supposedly designed to achieve. It's done, we move on, and we're fine, Gasly concluded. But even suggesting Ocon wasn't quite as cooperative as he should have been, and insisted he was in the aftermath of Montreal, suggests internal relations have not completely thawed. Further attempts to discuss with Ocon any clearing of the Canada air inside the Alpine team were met with a short shrift. "I don't want guys to come back onto Canada. I'm focusing on Barcelona, and that's all I will tell you." Before Alpine's PR shut down this line of questioning completely, Ocon was at least prepared to mention team boss Bruno Famin's public reassurances of equal treatment for Alpine's drivers for the remainder of 2024. That's obviously very important, to finish the season well, all together. And that will be the case, Ocon said. "We've been reassured that this is going to be the case, so we move forward. We turn the page from Canada and we focus again." Alpine currently has one marginally lighter car available, worth 1 kilo, according to Gasly. Ocon confirmed that car will rotate to him for the Spanish Grand Prix, which he said is probably where the equal treatment statement comes from.
Formula One at its absolute finest on the 62nd and last lap. George Russell into the wall and out of the race.
Nothing else comes close at the home of Formula One night racing.
Carlos Sainz, tactical brilliance. Carlos Sainz, the winner of the Singapore Grand Prix.
Watch it live. Formula One Singapore Airlines Singapore Grand Prix, 20th to 22nd September. Book now at singaporegp.sg.
Further down the grid, there's a glimmer of hope for one driver, who is among the 3 drivers yet to score a point in 2024. Sauber's Zhou Guanyu has had his request to revert to a previously used chassis and floor accepted. That comes after a miserable run of form, with 15th place his best result since his slump began in Imola. He's been struggling for confidence ever since then, and he's hopeful that switching to an older, albeit same spec chassis and floor will kickstart a turnaround. Zhou's facing a fight to stay on the grid beyond this year. He's highly likely to be leaving Sauber and has limited alternatives. Repeating his points finish from last year's Spanish Grand Prix would be a great way to start improving his prospects. Another driver in dire need of improvement is Williams' driver Logan Sargent, who is also without a point to his name this year. Sargent will have the same spec of Williams car as teammate Alex Albon for the first time in months. He says the parity was meant to arrive in Canada, but delays have pushed it back to Barcelona. The updates include a lighter floor that will tackle the key Achilles heel of Williams in 2024, the fact that the car has been overweight. Williams is still chipping away at that deficit, but until now, Sargent's always been one step behind Albon with an even heavier car. Sargent said, "If I look at qualifying this year, it's been so tight and every 10th or 100th makes a huge difference. So happy to know I'll have that extra bit in my pocket." Sargent's having to deal with his team boss, James Vowles, openly courting Sainz, but he insists that doesn't change anything for him. Teammate Albon had sympathy for Logan, saying, "He's doing a great job in the last few races. I don't think it's really been understood, especially because we aren't driving the same car. I think this weekend will be the first weekend where it's equal, so it has been tough for sure. I think he's a great driver and has got great raw speed." Well, that's it for this episode. If you'd like to get stuck into more ahead of racing in Spain, then why not head to our website? For now though, I'm James Baldwin and this has been the Race F1 Briefing, brought to you by the Singapore Grand Prix, the home of Formula One night racing.
The Athletic. As you've probably heard by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code The Athletic, and you'll get a 1-year subscription to The Athletic, plus up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code The Athletic. Make your first deposit of at least $10. Place your first bet on any game and claim your voucher for a 1-year subscription to The Athletic. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Mississippi, New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code The Athletic, and you'll get a 1-year subscription to The Athletic, plus up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager.